Three, two, one, and we're live. What is up, mother people? It's your boy Kevin the Farm D, aka Kevin the Refugee. I'm trying to position myself to be more front and center. But what is up, y'all? So welcome to my Sunday stream where I spend at least an hour-ish to get connected with y'all. Something that I look forward every week because it's really the one time I get to really answer your questions live and just interact. And I talk usually about different either pharmacy topics or personal development type things or things that are going on in my life. So yeah, man. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to my email. I keep a very personal email between all y'all guys. You guys are already hitting that like button, which is awesome. If you are watching the stream, make sure to start typing in comments. But one of the things that I really was, it's pretty crazy. I was Setson's like, yo, Kevin, haven't been in the stream in a while. I know. So one of the things that actually has been really on my mind, not only with me, but like I also run a closing team as well. But one thing that has been coming up a lot and I've been kind of revisiting is like the whole like growing up with Asian parents and never feeling like you're good enough. Oh, Lake, what's up? What's up? What's up? You got the whole crew in here, man. But yeah, man, like I never realized, I guess one thing that I've never truly realized until something that I didn't realize until recently was how much growing in an Asian household can fuck you up. And I always run into a story where, people like me were Asian, right? Everything that we do is held to a high standard, right? So if you bring home a B, you get your ass beat. I remember one time, like no lie, I brought home a C- in my honors chemistry class. True fact. Pretty funny though. Eventually chemistry became one of my majors. So, but yeah, man, that was pretty disappointing. And I just remember the disappointment in my father every single time I brought home grades. And my dad wasn't like the strictest on grades and stuff. He's like, hey, you can't be good at everything and stuff. But man, I just remember going back home and no matter what I did, whenever, like if I took 10 APs, 11 APs, 12 APs, didn't fucking matter. I just felt like I was the worst person on earth. Like it was never enough. And I talked to so many kids, like not kids, but even grown adults my age, and we all go through the same shit. Sammy Vang, what's up? Alexander says third. Kevin, do you know what spiral dynamics is? I'm learning it now, and I think you'd be able to relate to ideology. No, I don't know what spiral dynamics is, but you can look it up later. I'll put it on my Google list. Thanks, man. But it's so true. Like a lot of us Asian kids, we go through this, and it's not uncommon, and it gets even worse, man. Laugh my ass off. I hid my report cards in the 5th grade because I got B-. Yo, no lie, one of my homies, like, okay, this was in not elementary school, middle school, right? So this is when we started getting letter grades because back in the past we used to get like I don't know, check mark or check plus and shit in elementary school, right? But in middle school, that's when shit got real, man. So we actually got letter grades. I remember my friend brought home, like, he's Asian like me. He brought home a B-, and he would hide that shit from his parents. I remember one time he just like whipped up the barbecue and just fucking lit that shit on fire and whatnot. I was like, damn. But does it really, like, dude, that describes perfectly the relationship between Asian parents and like Asian kids, right? It's like, dude, we're always having to hide shit from our parents or we can't be open. Like, if you think about it, most Asian families, they don't talk about shit. I always make fun of like white families and stuff. And like when you watch on TV, like families hugging and talking about their problems, dude, you talk to an Asian person, they'll be like, yo, that's some white people shit, man. So, it's just very interesting to see the difference in dynamics. And I think like Asian parents, they teach very differently or they show affection very differently. It's pretty, damn, I got some big ass mosquito bites. Holy shit. Do you see all that? Goddamn. Worst part is when you internalize and you start standards yourself like your parents. Exactly. That's the thing that's been holding me back in life a lot. And I want to say over the last few years, I've actually been battling it more and more, even though I'm better than before. Like, I feel like one of the reasons why, like in business, you know, I could be a lot more successful. You know why? It's because anything I do enough, you know, like when you grow up like for years and years, like 20, dude, I spent at least 25 years with my parents, right? Or actually 20 years with my parents, or yeah, let's say 20 years with my parents, right? So in 20 years with my parents, it's really hard to undo that programming. And I'm spending all this time on the back end trying to undo that shit. And it comes to that point where, you know, I'm doing my own business, or like even when I was working pharmacy, nothing that I did was ever enough. Like for a lot of people, they're like, hey, Kevin, you hit the PharmD, you make your parents so damn happy. But to me, like maybe that was true. My dad actually looked at me very differently after I got my PharmD. My mom, like she always loved me from the beginning, so it didn't really matter. But for me, it just was never enough. And I think one of the reasons why I've been so kind of hesitant about business before was just because no matter what I created, whether it was a coaching service or investing course or anything I was doing, like I just felt like it was never good enough, and I don't think people would buy it, you know. And it's that is that like glass half empty mentality that stops you from like doing a lot of great things, man. Yeah, my family never says I love you to each other. You know, it's so funny. I talk about like the other day I was talking with my group and we're just saying like we're Cantonese, right? We speak Cantonese and stuff, and like the only time I ever learned like I love you in Cantonese was in Chinese school. You don't say it to each other. It's always like an around type of thing. So in Chinese, like forgive my crappy Cantonese, but "Ngo oi lei" is I love you, right? But no one ever says that shit. You usually go around it and be like, I really care about you, like "Ngo hou gua ji lei" and stuff like that. So like it's very around beating around the bush. We don't show like a lot of Asian families, they don't show a lot of affection and stuff. And I noticed this problem with not only business, but you know, a lot of the questions I get, like we're always trying to perfect every single thing. How do I know if like pharmacy is for me? Should I go back to grad school? Should I do this? Like I don't know if I'll be good at this. I'm doing a lot of good things. And I mean, keep in mind like that constant upping of my standards and constant hunger for more and more got me where I am. But at a certain point, those returns kind of diminish, man. Wong Fu made a skit about that. Did you eat yet? Equals I love you. Yeah. Like, dude, Asian parents are so damn funny because they'll always say, did you eat yet? And then call you fucking fat after. It's fucking hilarious, man. I love it. It's like that push pull, you know, like they always take care, they show love and affection from the physical actions of actually taking care of you, but when it comes to emotional needs, totally neglected. And even when I say emotional needs, I'm thinking like, damn, that's some white people shit. But it's true. We all have like that need for love. We all have that need for certain things, like the need that somebody gives a fuck about us, you know. And I was actually following my friend like Sua. You should go check out his financial channel. Maybe I'll link it after the stream. But something that really hit home that he said today to me really stuck with me, man. It's like one of the things that he said was like, dude, you know, your parents might have said some shit like you aren't good enough, or like at least their actions kind of indicated it, right? But let me ask you, how much money did they make? I was like, oh shit, you're right. Something went off. And he was like, yeah, you know, if you look at the results of what you did compare your parents, you're probably a lot more successful. I was like, I pretty much like triple or double my triple X my father's income and stuff like that, my family's income doing pharmacy. So yeah, I guess you're right. You know, like And sometimes it's so easy to fixate and just be like so focused on the fucking shoulda, woulda, coulda like type of things, but we don't look at the results enough, you know? So yeah, man. Um I think about like even after like my dad passed and stuff, like how much I feel like my relationship with my dad is like continuing ongoing, kind of like undoing all the programming back then and stuff, you know, and really trying to overcome that obstacle. You know, I don't regret any of that stuff because honestly, it made me into the man today. Like, I wouldn't be so interested in people's problems and be an attentive listener if it wasn't for everything that my dad put me through, man. Um, Internalizing it can make it real hard to deal with failure too. Yeah, that's why like for me, I always beat myself so much for failure. And sometimes you can get into like this really bad habit, or not bad habit, but like, dude, you're avoidant of like feedback, or you're avoidant of like critiques and stuff, because every single time when you suck complete ass. I remember when I was like on my first sales call, I was so fucking bad. Or not the first time, but like it's kind of like the gym, you know? Sometimes like there's days where like you can rip off like, I don't know, 500 pounds off the ground, but then there's some days where 315 might be fucking heavy as fuck. It might feel heavy as fuck. And dude, for me, I was having one of those days on my sales call, and it was only a practice sales call, and so I was going through everything, and afterwards I was just beating the fuck out of myself. I was just like, man, what the fuck happened? You were so on point, you were so good, but today you're sucking complete ass. And it just reminded me of about all the times where my dad came into play, and like no matter what I did, I never drank, I never smoked, I never did drugs, I never dealt drugs, even though I knew my friends that were doing it. Never did any of that shit. I was actually pretty straight edge for the most part, you know? And the only time I was like really bad, I guess, it's not even bad. It's just like, I feel like every teenager like kind of like acts up, you know what I mean? So every once in a while I'd act up, but that's because like me and my dad always used to get into fights all the fucking time. And I was just tired of him like yelling at me all the time, no matter what I did. Just got so angry. But it was just very interesting. It's just because so I remember going on this call with my classmates. I was like, dude, I'm sucking complete ass. Like, and I don't know why. And I feel like my dad is like, all those past experiences when my dad is just haunting me. I feel like I'm never good enough. I'm not gonna be good at closing or anything like that. And then I started crying and shit. But that's when I realized like, yo, I gotta break out of this stuff, you know, and that really helped internalize everything. Lake says, "What gem are you?" So, what Lake is referring to is Dan Lok's 4 gems. So there's 4 different gems. There's Ruby. So you can type in Dan Lok 4 personality types. Really interesting. It's like one of those like, what are you tests that I used to take in high school that used to like, oh shit, I want to know what I am. So, yeah. So there's 4 types. There's the rubies, right? So those are real go-getters, A-type personalities, like the fucking like go for the juggler, go for the goals and shit, right? Second gem, there's sapphires. So I like to think of these like fun type of things, like people that might pierce their dick, like me, or they like to party. They love people. They love high energy type of stuff. And then there's pearls. I like to think of this as like my mom. A lot quieter, very, very caring of people, right? These are your moms, your nurses, and all that sort of stuff. And then there's the the emeralds. So think about your computer nerds, engineers, and all that sort of stuff. Very logical. Actually, a lot of healthcare professionals are probably like in between the emerald and a pearl. But my 2 gems, my primary is actually sapphire, because I love talking to people. I love high energy type of stuff. It's only like through video, I guess, I come off as like kind of pearlish, but yeah, I'm a sapphire and I'm a pearl. I care a lot about people. So those are my 2 gem types, man. Dan Lok is the new Tai Lopez. I wouldn't say so. Tai Lopez, well, even so, like even from Tai Lopez, you can learn a lot. Like I don't agree with his ethics, right? But Tai Lopez is kind of like it's kind of like that. I don't know, like one thing I learned from Tai Lopez is that you can create you don't need much to create an online product, and it's important to test out the theory of a product and get it out really quick rather than drawing it out for ages and ages. So that's one good thing about Tai Lopez. But whether you're like, dude, there's something that you can learn from everyone, even really shitty people. Like to me, I don't really vibe with Tai Lopez ethically, but so not everybody's gonna like Dan Lok. That's okay. I mean, I just liked his story just because we both come from a Cantonese background. Our fathers both passed, and I don't know. It's just really cool seeing someone who is like the same like has the same background as you, and you just understand each other. There's this mutual understanding. Like you understand his stories when he talks about the Reddit envelopes and how to hustle, get more Reddit envelopes. Yo, those are the stories I fucking vibe with because I was like, yo, that's my childhood. And I don't know. I'm very different from Dan Lok per se too. Like I'm not the same thing. Like Dan is more of a Ruby Pearl, but for me, like I think I'm very different because the way I come across isn't as like, bam, kick down your front door, fucking kick ass and take names, That's not my style. Nah, Dan Lok commands from far more respect because he has very pure intentions, in my opinion. I know Dan Lok too. Well, like my interactions with Dan Lok, I wouldn't say I know him. I don't have like his personal number and shit like that. But Dan is like his intentions are very pure. And like I highly recommend that you guys read his book FU Money if you want to check it out. But if you don't, that's cool too. Seriously, it's like one of those books that people either really like, but it's one of those books that just opens your eyes up and you're like, holy shit. It's like seeing the Matrix. Nothing is very different. Like I've learned stuff from like Rich Dad Poor Dad. I see some stuff like from Rich Dad Poor Dad in there, but the way you present it is very different. It's kind of like in jiu-jitsu class, right? You'll learn like a Kimura, right? So blah, 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 you learn Kimura. They post their hand on that, you shoot for the Kimura, right? Okay. But when some other professor teaches it, let's say Marcelo Garcia teaches a Kimura setup or a Kimura trap, you might learn something different from it. And you might see something different that you didn't see before. And like, even as you like progress through the belts, maybe you saw something as a purple belt that you didn't see as a white belt. And I think like FU Money is just one of those books. It's just like you keep on going back to it and you keep on seeing new things from it. It's really great. I love it. It's entertaining too. It's not one of those fucking boring books. And if you got a chance to listen to audio, that's even better. So affiliate link below, but not plugging that today. I think I've done a lot of that recently. And it's really cool. But yeah, so it's really interesting, because I thought for a long time, I don't know, it's like one of those things that that like your friends probably have gone through, right? They've probably gone through strict like Asian household training and stuff like that. But you guys, like, it's so rare that we actually really talk about it. And then I was talking about it more in depth because I was just like, man, like recently one of my biggest realizations was that, as a business owner, it's just like the thing that was holding me back was because I never thought I was good enough for anything, like anything that I produced wasn't fucking good enough. And that was the number one thing holding me back. And I was like, shit, even after all these emotional intelligence seminars, even after like rekindling with my dad, I'm still struggling with it, man. And some days it's easier than others. Some days it's better than others, but man, it's pretty interesting how some things like they take a lot of work. And I know I'm getting in that good place right now. Anyways, yeah, so I was talking to my team about that, and I think another thing too is just like one of the things that I know how I'm different from a lot of other Asian like kids is like, I've actually taken the time to really rekindle my relationship with my dad. I mean, at one point there was a period like where me and my dad weren't even talking for years. Like he kicked me out of the house and stuff a few times. We got into heated arguments so bad that my mom was about to call the cops and shit. My dad was like, dude, when I die, you can just spit on my grave. I don't give a fuck about you. You were a mistake. Having you as a child was a mistake. And that was our dynamic. And I think one of the most proud things, like I'm not proud, like my PharmD is cool, having all that sort of stuff, like a PharmD and doing pharmacy and doing all these like getting all these awards was cool. But you know, I don't really care about any of that. I think the number one thing I'm most proud of in my life was being able to like salvage my relationship with my dad. So for y'all that don't know my story, and I have a feeling that most of you guys do know my story, but around May of last year, I I actually took this emotional intelligence seminar. This is where I met Charlie Lee of Litecoin and all that. Really cool experience. But I remember coming out of one of the trainings and I was just bawling my eyes out because I was just like, man, the reason why I have a shitty relationship with my dad isn't because of my dad, actually. It was actually because of me. Because at the time I was like 29 years old. And it's so easy to just victimize and blame someone just for like a shitty relationship. But the truth was I wasn't taking the time, or I didn't have the balls to really step up to my dad. And I was like, hey, I want a better relationship. So I remember after crying my eyes out and all this bullshit, like, yo, I went up to my dad and I called him and I was just like, hey, Dad, I know we've always had our differences, you know, like we've never really got along in the past. And, you know, going forward, I don't know how much more time you have, but going forward, I just want a better relationship with you. And that was like one of the first times I said I love you to my dad, and he actually really meant it. I was like, holy shit, you know, I can't believe this is actually happening. You know, and ever since then, my relationship with my dad was really good. I mean, my dad sometimes had his tics, like, dude, I don't know. Sometimes my dad's so fucking embarrassing and shit. I don't know. Sometimes frustrated the hell out of me. But we definitely had those moments where, like, you know, I was talking to my dad just as a real person. I was just like, you know, sometimes I just feel like you're just not proud of me, no matter what I did. Like, I just always felt neglected. And he's like, dude, I've always been proud of you. You know, like. And those words always hit me. And who knew, like, literally 7 months later, my dad would be gone from my life. He passed away. It really blew my mind. Like, and I always tell people, man, like, you gotta, if you have the chance right now, try to rekindle your, like, at least make the attempt to rekindle your relationship with your dad. Now, a lot of people might say, like, hey, you know, my dad is different. My dad is this. My dad is that. Okay, cool. Let's say your dad is just like, you're fucking weird. Why the fuck are you bringing this up? At the end of the day, it's not really about how your dad reacts. It's really about yourself. At the end of the day, it's whether, hey, you see the problem and you want to fix it. You make the attempt to fix it, you know, and talk openly about your problems. Because this honestly is so fucking easy to just say fucking nothing and just move on with your life and not say a single thing and not like take care of the fucking problem, man. But you know, so I feel very strongly about it. You know, I know it's not easy. I know it's the most awkward thing in the world. But there's 3 things that you can probably do to make it less awkward. First, if there's tension, just say it. Just be like, hey, we've always had our differences, and honestly, I feel like there's some sort of tension, you know? Going forward, state your intention. Hey, I want to have a better relationship going forward. I want to be able to just, like, you know, talk about our problems if we ever have one, you know? So that's all you really need. I mean, some people want to jump the gun and be like, hey, I want my dad to support me unconditionally no matter what. Like, whether I start a business, if I choose to leave my professional career and shit. But you can't jump the gun like that, man. You gotta show unconditional love first, and then that will come. Because I'll be honest, my dad didn't even believe in me being an entrepreneur until, like, he was on his deathbed. He was like, go do it. I was like, fuck, man. So that's why I feel so damn strong about being an entrepreneur too, because my dad, if I could change like my relationship from my dad to actually believing in me, dude, there's nothing stopping me. When I sell a course and I believe it's the right thing, yo, I can, if I can close my dad, I can close anyone on a really kick-ass course. If I'm strong, if I can do like almost impossible things up here, then the world is my oyster, man. I can do anything. DJ Zealous, what's up? I saw your bachata Instagram, man. Hella funny. You can practice selling to me anytime, bro. Of course, man. Yo, it's so funny. I was actually just very interesting. I was actually selling, well, not selling, but sometimes I like to do these practice sales calls for people that are trying to launch a product, right? Just because it gets them in like the right mindset, like of their customer base, and really practice things out, work out the kinks, you know. And I like, for me, I love it. It's so fucking fun. It's like mental chess. It's like jujitsu and shit. It's really fun. So I love it. I recommend you go back to Shure Mic, Kev. The lav sounds a bit muffled. Oh shit. Yeah. I guess I could put back in the. Do you guys want the baller mic? I just didn't want to do the Shure mic just because it's a pain in the ass. I